While at the library one day, Will has a breathtaking encounter. He sees the most beautiful girl he's ever seen. He swallows the nervousness and approaches her. Her name is Mabel Barnard. They flirt for a while at the library before she suggests that they go dancing. Will forgot that Carol was even there and half-heartedly asks her to join, but she declines. They arrive at the dancing joint and Will sees another friend from school, Troy Acton. They all dance the night away, chatting and joking around. Mabel suggests that they all go to a club. Will had never been to a club before but thought it sounded fun, so he agrees to go. Mabel offered him drugs, but he scolded her and told her he wasn't into that stuff. This was such a change of pace for Will since he was always a straight-edge kid, but he liked staying out after curfew and doing things against the rules. Mabel was so alluring that Will almost felt like he was in a trance when he was with her. They slow danced together and it felt like they were the only two people in that club. They began kissing, and Will felt like he was on cloud 9, and he even told Mabel that. She told him he could feel even more on cloud 9 if he took pills with her. He relented on his previous stance and agrees to take whatever she had. He watched her take the pills first and was so nervous, having never done anything of the sort before. Despite his reservations, he takes what is given to him. He doesn't know why he ever declined her offer. He feels great. Will sneaks Mabel back to his house. She wants to swim in his pool, but he tells her no, because his parents are sleeping. She suggests they do more drugs instead. He thinks that is a great idea. They go into his bedroom and sleep together for the first time. He doesn't know if it is the pills or just Mabel, but sex was the most incredible thing he had ever experienced. As he was trying to sneak Mabel out, his mother catches them and she is livid. She yells at him that he stayed out after curfew and, of all things, brought a girl back into their home. She said that she raised him better than that, and she was so disappointed in him. Mabel cuts in and is very disrespectful to Nancy. Turns her anger to Mabel and tells her that she needs to respect her elders. Mabel replies that she wasn't going to let a rigidity old bitch tell her what to do. Nancy couldn't contain her anger, and she slaps Mabel across the face and tells her to get out of her house. She is extremely angry with Will when she notices his pupils are blown. She accuses him of being high, but he denies it and leaves for school early to escape his He takes a pill for good luck before he goes to school. Nancy relapses after Will goes to school. The audacity of that ball girl to corrupt her firstborn. Will had always been so respectful and abided by her and Tommy's rules. Something had to be done about that girl seeing her son, and she was going to make sure that happened. Nancy forbade Will from going anywhere but school or home, so he takes up guitar as a way to pass the time. He quite enjoyed the instrument and thought he was actually pretty good at it. He begs his mom to go see Carol, and she agrees because she is a good girl. He catches Carol up on all of the drama of his life and how unreasonable his mother was being. Carol disagreed with him and told him to look at it from his mother's point of view. He would have never thought about that and asked where he would be without her. She just looked at him longingly and giggled. They laid on the ground and looked at the sky. Will felt like his old self again with Carol, and he felt better than he did in a while. They hugged each other tightly and agreed to see each other soon. As much as he liked feeling like his old self again, he couldn't stay away from Mabel and his new lifestyle. He snuck out of his house after his parents went to bed and met Troy and Mabel at the club. Troy had some Coca-Cola and offered some to Will. He was hesitant but agreed to try it. He felt on top of the world after that bump. Mabel stuck to her pills but took more than she normally did. Things got hot and heavy between Will and Mabel very quickly due to the substances they were on. It was a party and everybody was feeling it. Mabel started dancing on Will and it felt like every single one of the hairs on his body were sticking up with anticipation. At the end of the night, in a drug-induced stupor, he asks Mabel to be his girlfriend. She says 1,000,000 times yes. Nancy sat Will down to have a serious chat about Mabel. She tells him he has to stop seeing her. Will stands his ground and tells her that he won't. He really likes her and won't let her dictate who he sees romantically. Nancy was furious and told him that they wouldn't support the relationship and he would lose his parents' respect, but Will didn't care about that. To make matters worse, his dad got home and found drugs in his room. Lucky for Will, he had some in his backpack that he got from Troy that school day. He wasn't going to let his parents dictate his life. Nancy focuses the rest of her energy on Remy. He hasn't disappointed her like Will has, and she will make sure that won't happen. Will sneaks Mabel into his room for a little forbidden fornication, not caring about his mother's view of his girlfriend nor the rules of the house. Nancy floated in the pool and reflected on her parenting. She was at a loss of what to do about her delinquent child. Troy and Will skipped school one day and went to the arcades instead. Troy didn't think school was important, so he rarely went. They gossiped about their respective conquests, and Troy made a comment that he would have totally banged Mabel if Will hadn't beat him to it. The comment hurt his feelings, but he laughed it off so he wouldn't appear weak. They took pills, and all was well again between the two friends. Will cries in the mirror because he doesn't recognize who he sees in the mirror anymore. He didn't want to be this kid, skipping school and doing whatever substances he could. Little Remy loves to dance his heart out. Will got stoned well at school and invited Mabel over since his parents weren't home. They enjoyed the pool together. Mabel suggested that they pop some pills because she was starting to get bored. Will got annoyed with her and said they don't always have to do substances to have fun together. She was annoyed and told Will he had to make it up to her. Will knew of a few ways to do that. Mabel suggested that they do it in his parents' bed. He knew this was an unhealthy way of getting over an argument, but it felt too good to stop. It is Remy's birthday. He is hot-headed, has ADHD, and is an animal enthusiast. Nancy told Will that now his brother was getting older, he needed to be a better role model. That he was going to live his life the way he wanted, and with who Nancy tells her son that if he doesn't want to live by her rules, he is more than welcome to leave. Will says that if he leaves now, he won't ever return. Nancy tells him to go. Will escapes to a cheap motel across town. Mabel decided to join him, saying it's an adventure, no parents, no rules, just us. This was like an extended vacation for the younglings, and they took full advantage of that. They moved things into the shower. The high of leaving home with his girlfriend radiated throughout Will's entire body. Who needed parents, rules, or a permanent home? Not Will. The duo celebrated the newfound freedom by christening their bed. The high of leaving home was turned into a different kind of high. They got some goods from Troy and they enjoyed the alone time. The couple took full advantage of having a room all to themselves and used the bed often. Will gave himself a pep talk in the mirror because Carol informed him she was coming to see him. He didn't want her to be disappointed in him. Will's heart thumped harder with each step towards Carol. As ashamed as he was of the events that occurred with his mom, it was so good to see her face. Carol told him that Nancy was a mess and wished their conversation hadn't ended like it had. Will rebutted and said that she meant every word, and she didn't give a damn about him since Remy was born. Carol told Will that he knew that wasn't true and his mother loved him very much. Will lashes out and asks why Carol even came here. If she expects him to come back home after everything that has happened, she didn't know him at all. She looks him in the eyes and replies, "I guess I never knew you then." Will turned his anger from his conversation with Carol into pleasure for Mabel. Will and Mabel had birthdays around the same time, so Troy threw a double birthday party for his two best friends. He was grateful that Troy threw him a birthday party, but he missed his family and Carol. Will is a beauty lover, ironic, because look at his face. As with all heirs, his aspiration is to have successful lineage. Happy birthday, Mabel, I guess. Will celebrated his birthday in the only way he knew how to anymore. He partied. Mabel stuck to her pills since she didn't care for Coca-Cola much. Will and Mabel celebrate their joint birthday party in the bedroom as they did with many things. Anybody else tired of seeing them boink all the time? I guess Will is bad in the sack. Will's pocket change has run out, so he gets a job to pay for the motel. Will joins the entertainment career because why not? His academic career is over. He starts his day as he starts every other day since meeting Mabel. Mabel slept in much later than she normally did. While Mabel is sleeping, Will practices his set for his upcoming gig. He's not the best, but practice makes perfect. She doesn't feel well, so she takes a bubble bath, hoping that will help the way she's feeling. Mabel is coming down from her pills, and her emotions are a little out of whack. Will makes her feel better by doing what they do best. Before going to the club, Mabel throws up. The boys do some Coca-Cola the moment they get to the club. It's the only way to have fun, after all. Mabel normally didn't do Coca-Cola, but tonight she did. Mabel's stomach was upset at the club and she had to excuse herself to the bathroom. She got a little flirty with Troy, who reciprocated tenfold. He pulled out all of the stops to beg Mabel. Will notices the flirty exchange pretty quickly after it happened and calls Troy for a chat. He is very stern with him and tells him to stay away from his girl. Will and Mabel argue extensively after getting back from the club. Mabel tells Will that he's not her father and can't control who she talks to. Mabel was so upset from the argument that it made her vomit. Mabel felt something wasn't right with her body. She felt sick all of the time and was tired no matter how much she slept. Mabel decided to take a pregnancy test to ease her mind. It was the longest 3 minutes of her life. And to see two pink lines on the test was the opposite of what she wanted. She puts on a brave face to tell Will about the baby. To her surprise, Will is very supportive and happy about the news. He apologizes for all of the arguments they have had, but he would be there for her and his baby. Mabel is happy she doesn't have to do this alone, but also doesn't want to be a mom. The one person Will wanted to tell is Carol. He tells her the news, and she is shocked. Taking Carol by complete surprise, Will kisses her. It was the most magical kiss both had ever experienced. He told her he has a duty to Mabel, but he had to kiss her just once. Will travels back home to tell his parents the news of Mabel's pregnancy. Nancy was so happy to see her son and gives him a huge hug. He sits both of his parents down and tells them what he came to say. They are less than thrilled that Mabel is pregnant, but Nancy is excited to become a grandma. Mabel loved to dance but couldn't show her face in clubs right now, so she dances alone in the motel bar. Will tries to help her feel better by dancing with her. As it always did, this turns into a sexual encounter. Mabel demands that they get a house because they can't raise a baby in a motel. Will sat down and did the math in his head how many gigs he would have to do to afford a house. Mabel did a whole lot of nothing during her pregnancy and mostly enjoyed the pool the motel offered. She sulked around and continually blamed Will for being pregnant when she didn't want it. She pouted about the fact that they still lived in the motel. Will told her one day soon before her due date that he purchased a home. Will did what Mabel asked and got them a home to raise their child in, not the motel. It was a modest home, but it completely drained his bank account. He even had to borrow a bit of money from his parents, but they were happy to help him out for their grandchild. Mabel loved the new place, especially the fireplace. Will made himself at home in his new home by making himself a drink. Mabel poorly played the guitar law. Will gushes about his excitement to be a dad. Mabel let him feel her belly the first time she allowed him to do so. She hated her body right now, so she didn't let Will touch her. Mabel's water broke in the middle of the night. Will had a bit of a panic since he's woken up by this. Mabel takes her sweet time to get to the hospital, instead focusing on her breathing and getting rid of the pain. As soon as they got to the hospital, Mabel demanded any and all drugs they could give her to stop the pain. She was complaining the entire time and started to annoy the nurses. Apparently, Will's coping mechanism to the stress is to pop a pill. Mabel hated everything about labor and just wanted to be done, just wanted this stupid baby out of her. Why did she keep this pregnancy? Why weren't she and Will safe enough? Will even had to excuse himself to get away from Mabel's anger. She was completely done with labor and everyone being happy for her by the time she needed to push. She vowed right then that she would never have another baby after this. She blamed Will for his excitement to her news. She would have gotten rid of the pregnancy if he was a normal boy, and told her he wasn't supportive. A girl? Lacey Goldblum, our 1970s heir. Will was completely and utterly in love with his daughter. Mabel, on the other hand, felt nothing when she looked at Lacey. This baby could be a complete stranger and she would feel the same as she did looking at Lacey. Lacey was a fussy baby for anyone except her father. She didn't like her mom very much, and Mabel didn't like her either. Will primarily took care of her, but he was okay with that because he absolutely adored his daughter. Mabel didn't want to be stuck at home with her crying baby, so she called Troy to go out. Troy was excited that Mabel wasn't tied down to a child, and they spent a lot of time together. Mabel felt alive again with Troy. He was exciting and fun to be around, and he didn't constantly talk to her about her offspring. She was attracted to him, so she decides to flirt for fun and see where it goes. Troy was more than receptive to her advances and flirted back. The mood turned sexual very quickly. She felt the urge to kiss him, so she does, not caring about the repercussions. Mabel tries to seduce Troy and he is extremely into it. They were both tripping and Mabel thought that her dancing was sexy. It was not. They go to the same motel where she had once stayed at with Will. She cheats on Will with Troy that night. She doesn't feel bad about it either. In fact, she wants to keep doing it. Will felt like something was off with Mabel. She was never home anymore and wanted nothing to do with Lacey. He makes himself a drink to calm his nerves. Will found solace in his daughter. He would whisper to her that it was the two of them against the world. Will went to sleep by himself every night now and fell asleep wondering what he did wrong with Mabel. Mabel sits Will down and tells her that she is leaving him for Troy. She said she is making a clean slate from Will and Lacey and moving away with Troy. Will is confused and hurt that Mabel would cheat on him with his best friend. He's sad that his friend had no loyalty to him and Mabel was so willing to abandon her family for another man. Mabel rubs salt in the wound and kisses Troy right in front of Will. Troy utters that he should have taken better watch over his woman. The comment sends Will over the edge, and he hits Troy. Will is heartbroken and feels like his entire world has been turned upside down. He clings to Lacey just as much as she does to him. He celebrates Lacey's birthday like how her whole life had been this far, just the two of them. She is angelic and toy obsessed. Lacey toddler fit check. Lacey loves her dad so much and wants to be around him all of the time. He reads to her and plays with her. He tries his best to give her the love of two parents. Will takes Lacey to his parents' house for a visit. He hasn't shared the news of Mabel leaving him yet because he was too ashamed and he knew his parents were right about her. Thankfully, they don't rub in the fact that they were right in his face and offer their support. Nancy is more transparent with her son and said she never liked that woman and she hoped bad things would come upon her. Will felt the same way even though he felt bad to think like that. Nancy asked if he had talked to Carol recently. Will said he hadn't had the chance, but he missed her greatly. His mother gives him a knowing smile and tells him to give her a call. She would want to hear from him. Will takes his mother's advice and calls his childhood best friend. It was so good to see her face. And Carol comforts Will about the events that happened with Mabel and Troy. Carol discloses that she has been in love with him since they were children. Will tells her that he has been in love with her for a long time, but only recently realized it. He tells her how sorry he is for overlooking her when they were teenagers. He was a stupid hormonal teenager that didn't see the best thing that had ever happened to him when he had it. Carol wants to take things slow with Will because she wants this to last with him. So Will took things slow with Carol. He took her on dates and properly dated her. It felt weird to him to have such a happy and healthy relationship. He knew that he loved Carol but didn't know that this is what a relationship could be like. They didn't need drugs to enjoy each other's company. He wouldn't trade Lacey for the world, but he wished that he wouldn't have been so blinded by lust with Mabel and would have done things right long ago with Carol. He was so in love with Carol, and he never had to second guess whether Carol loved him too. He knew she did. It felt so different from anything he ever experienced with Mabel, but it was a good different, the best different. He had never wanted a normal, boring life more than he did now with Carol. After months of officially going steady, Will decides that it was a good time to introduce Carol to Lacey. They immediately bonded with one another, and Carol adored the little girl so quickly. They giggled while they talked, and it was like they had known each other forever. Carol loved her like she was her own daughter, and Lacey loved her almost as much as she loved her dad. After Lacey was asleep, the couple sat outside on the back porch. They had yet to be intimate with each other, but Will was biting at the bit to show his love to Carol. Carol told him that she had never taken that step with anyone. She wanted to be in love with the person, and she was only ever in love with Will. Carol experiences her first time with the one great love of her life. Will was blown away at how different sex was when it was with someone he loved. Lacey was a little hellion and loved to cause havoc. Carol made a nice dinner for her chosen family. She felt like she was made for this domestic life. While Carol did that, Will cleaned Lacey up after she got into Carol's makeup. Carol let Lacey give her a makeover since she was so interested in her makeup. It wasn't the best makeover she had ever gotten, but it was her favorite. Lacey adores her dad so much. They are too cute. Will took Carol out to a vacant field and officially asked her to be his girlfriend. She told him she has been his since they were kids. They stargazed together like they used to do as teens, and Will felt like he was a love-struck kid again. Carol insisted he played guitar and loved to hear his music. Lacey seemed to inherit her father's love for music. She loved to dance to the radio. Will had a drink every now and then, but didn't need substances to feel something anymore. Will and Carol put on their best outfits and went out on the town. On their walk home, Will shocked Carol when he got down on one knee and asked her to be his wife. Carol gave him the easiest yes she ever answered. Will couldn't wait to spend the rest of his life with Carol. Carol officially adopted Lacey as her daughter. She loved Lacey like her own blood, so she was happy to make it official. Lacey was happy to have a mommy and loved Carol so much. They happy danced to the news. Carol cooks a meal to share the news of their engagement with their families. Nancy was so happy for her son and couldn't wait for Carol to officially be a part of the family. Their meal already felt like a cohesive family unit. Carol always knew she was meant to be in this family, to be a Goldblum. Will and Carol get married surrounded by their family. This was such a long time coming, and both were happy to finally wed their soulmate. They have come such a long way from being in love as kids. They lost their way for a while, but here they are, finally tying the knot. Carol had dreamt of this day ever since she was a child and didn't think this would ever be her reality. Will was just happy he finally got it right. This is where he belonged. Introducing Mr. and Mrs. William and Carol Goldblum. For whatever reason, Remy has been a child for absolutely forever, so don't mind him lol. Carol hugged her bonus daughter and was so happy Will gave her such a blessing. Look at our beautiful family of 3. Will and Carol couldn't afford a honeymoon, so they celebrated their wedding night at home together. They didn't need a fancy honeymoon and only wanted to soak up time together. They slow danced together even though there was no music playing. They were just so in love with each other that they didn't need music. Will got a little handsy with his new bride and was excited to consummate their marriage over and over again. And they did. They could not keep their hands off of each other. It was the wedding of Carol's dream, and it was about to be the honeymoon of Will's. Sprinkling baby dust for the newlyweds. Lacey's birthday was a few months after the wedding. Will cooked a birthday cake for his little girl. He couldn't believe she was growing up so fast. Will and Carol pulled out all of the stops to make Lacey's birthday special. They were obnoxious and over the top, but Lacey loved every second of it. Lacey blew out her candles and wished for a sibling. Happy birthday, Lacey girl. Lacey is toy-obsessed, a Pisces, and self-assured. Lacey child fit check. Lacey was very musically gifted and enjoyed playing any and all instruments. She had a gift of gaining instrument skills quickly. Carol and Will wasted no time to try for a baby of their own. However, they were having trouble conceiving. Since Carol stayed home with Lacey, who was now in school, she decided to occupy her time. She started writing children's books. Lacey daydreamed of becoming a famous musician often. She lived and breathed music and wanted to make it her life. Carol finished her first children's book. Will was exhausted from all their trying for baby business. Will knew his daughter had a gift, so he built her a stage in the middle of the living room to perform for them. And she did. She loved to perform. She put on concerts for her parents. She started to learn the piano and immediately took a liking to the instrument. After receiving kind words from her publisher, Carol gets started on her second children's book. Lacey joined a music class after school to refine her skills. Carol's on a roll. Carol made sure she had dinner on the table every night for her family. It made her feel needed and not broken, which was how she felt right now. Lacey hated school but did homework anyway. She would much rather play music. Pregnancy test after pregnancy test came back negative, and Carol began to get discouraged. But that didn't stop the newlyweds from trying at every opportunity. Lacey got so much joy and validation when she performed and knew that this is what she wanted to do with her life. Carol occupied her mind with reading, hoping that if she didn't think about a baby, she would get a baby. Music wasn't her only passion. Lacey had immense compassion for everyone. Lacey encouraged her dad to perform with her. So Lacey sang while Will played guitar in the background. Carol's stress cleaned around the house because if she couldn't have a baby, at least she had a clean house. She felt very sad that she and Will had not conceived a child yet. Still, they never lost hope to have a baby. Carol began getting very ill every morning. She was hopeful that this could mean pregnancy, but she didn't get her hopes up. She had cravings for brownies and would often make them at odd times of the day. Then, as soon as she ate the brownies, they made her feel sick to her stomach. Carol confided in her husband that she thinks she could be pregnant, but to not get his hopes up. Will tells her to take a test just to be sure one way or the other. She takes the test, but has a feeling that she is pregnant. Her intuition was correct, and she was in fact finally pregnant. She had never felt so happy in her life. She told Will of the news, and he was so excited to be having a baby with the woman he loves. When Lacey felt burnt out from music, she played dolls to gain inspiration. She was very excited of the news of Carol's pregnancy and couldn't wait to be a big sister. Carol bakes her daughter a cake for her birthday. It was hard for her to grasp that this little toddler that immediately stole her heart was now aging into a teenager. The lovebirds are so cute, I can't take it. It was Lacey's birthday. I know these things go by so quickly. Lacey always loved her birthdays because her mom and dad made them so enjoyable. They would throw confetti and obnoxiously sing, but she looked forward to it every year. We are officially in the 1970s, y'all. Lacey is self-assured, a Pisces, perky, and a lyricist. Lacey teenager fit check.